While the giants of English football seem to be asleep at the wheel, Newcastle United are quietly pulling off something that could completely change the club's future in the next few years. But hang on, before I tell you about this genius move that's left Manchester United and Tottenham miles behind, I need to update you on two big situations that are shaking things up inside the squad right now. Stay tuned until the end, because the third story is going to show you exactly why Newcastle might be building something much bigger than anyone realizes. News 1. Yoane Wissa's recovery. Let's start by talking about Yoane Wissa. If you don't remember, he's the forward Newcastle signed from Brentford back in September for a massive £55 million. The problem? The fans haven't seen a single minute of him in black and white yet. He suffered a posterior cruciate ligament injury while playing for the DR Congo national team, and since then it's been a bit of a soap opera. Will he be back soon? When's he coming back? At first, everyone thought he'd return right after the October international break. But then, Eddie Howe dropped a bombshell a couple of weeks ago, saying it would take a bit longer. Instead of 6 weeks, more like 8. Now though, we've finally got some good news. Wissa is back on the grass. That's right, he's out there on the training pitches again, doing light exercises. And according to Howe, his knee is responding really well. He's not flying just yet, but is moving step by step, exactly as planned. The expectation is that he could make his debut around the start of November. That could be against West Ham on the 2nd, Athletic Club on the 5th, or, and this would be a special one, against Brentford on the 9th. Yes, his former club. And a lot of people think that's the game he'll be targeting. Oh, and there was some confusion online too. People spreading fake reports that he'd torn his anterior cruciate ligament, which is a much more serious injury. Howe had to come out and clear it up, confirming it was actually the medial collateral ligament, and that a lot of what was going around on social media was simply false information. But there's another key point here. What about the Africa Cup of Nations, which kicks off in December? The DR Congo are taking part, and Wissa is a regular call-up. Will Newcastle really let him go right after he's recovered from injury? Howe didn't want to go into that just yet. For him, there's only one focus right now: get the player fit again. Everything else can wait. News 2. New injury problems. If you thought Newcastle's injury worries were finally over, I'm sorry to say, they are not. Eddie Howe is pulling his hair out again with two fresh concerns, and both involve key players. First up, Joe Linton. He and Bruno Guimaraes have just returned from that crazy-long trip to Japan and South Korea with the Brazil national team. Long flights, mad time zones, barely any rest. Because of that, Howe decided to give them both a breather in the last match down south. But now there's a problem. Joe Linton's picked up a slight groin issue. Howe admitted he's a bit concerned, but said there's no reason to panic just yet. He'll be assessed in training today, and then they'll decide whether he can play against Brighton on Saturday, or if it's better to rest him a bit longer. When asked about the Brazilian's chances of playing, Howe was honest. It's always tricky with those long international trips. It depends on how they've recovered in training and how they are feeling physically. At least there's some good news too. Jacob Ramsey, who's been out since the Leeds match, is finally back in training. Howe said he's not pushing him too hard just yet, but is really pleased with the progress. And Lewis Miley, who had to leave England's U19 squad last week, seems fine now as well. Now, here's the big issue. With Yoane Wissa still unavailable and these new injury worries popping up, Newcastle's attacking options are looking seriously thin. For the Brighton game, Howe basically only has Nick Woltemade available as a proper centre-forward. And it gets worse. William Ojala, the young Danish striker who's been doing really well lately, has picked up an ankle knock. Another one added to the treatment room. So right now, Woltemade is the man. He's nearly 2 meters tall, just scored the winner for Denmark against Northern Ireland in the World Cup qualifiers, and now he's got to carry the weight of the attack on his own. The good news is, Howe really believes in him. He said Woltemade's been brilliant in training, fully focused, great attitude, and that the squad have welcomed him in straight away. Now, the main thing is helping him feel confident when he steps onto the pitch. And hey, at least his trip back from Belfast was a short one. So if there's anyone who's properly rested and ready, it's him. Because right now, the Magpies need all the energy they can get. News 3. The gem Newcastle stole from the Giants. And now, Toon Army. We've finally reached the big one, the headline that could completely shape Newcastle's future for years to come. While the so-called giants, Manchester United, Tottenham, even Brighton, were out there chasing ready-made stars with ridiculous price tags, Newcastle were doing something very different. Something smarter. Something that could be worth gold in the future. And trust me, This is no exaggeration. Newcastle United have just signed Josh Kenshington, a 15-year-old defender from Barnsley, and this could quietly become one of the most brilliant signings of the season. Now, I know what you're thinking. 15 years old? Just a kid. How big of a deal can that be? But hold on, because once you hear the full story, you'll understand exactly why this move is so clever. This lad is already being compared to John Stones. Yes, that John Stones, the England international who plays for Manchester City and is worth tens of millions of pounds. And here's the crazy part. Kenshington is already over 6 feet tall, at just 15. He's still growing, still developing, and scouts who've been following him say he's got something special. Let's talk numbers. Newcastle initially offered around £275,000, but after a few rounds of negotiation, the deal was finalized at £350,000. And yeah, that might sound like a lot for a teenager, but let's put it in perspective. In today's football world, where clubs are splashing out £50, £60, £100 million on players who might perform, £350,000 is an absolute bargain if this lad becomes what the experts think he can. If Josh becomes even half the player John Stones is today, Newcastle will have pulled off the deal of the century. But if he fulfills his full potential, we talking about a future centre-back worth £80 or £100 million. It's a gamble, but one with a massive potential payoff. And here's where it gets even better. Manchester United, Tottenham, and Brighton were all fighting for him. Every one of them made an offer. Every one of them tried to convince the player and his family. But in the end, Newcastle won the battle. How? By showing the young lad and his family that Tyneside is the best place for him to grow. And honestly, they are right. Newcastle's academy setup is world-class these days, top facilities, elite coaches, and most importantly, a clear pathway from the academy to the first team. And this isn't just a one-off. This signing fits perfectly into the club's long-term vision. While other clubs are throwing fortunes at big names, Newcastle are building something smarter, investing in youth, shaping talent in our own way, and preparing the next generation of Magpies. And you know who's behind all of this? Paul Baker, Newcastle's youth scout, a man who's becoming a legend at spotting hidden gems across English football. Is the one who brought in Trevan Sanusi in 2023. Is also the one who found Sam Alabi at Oldham Athletic, a 4th division club. And guess what? Sam Alabi has already been seen training with the first team during the international break. That's proof that the opportunity is real. It's not just talk. If these youngsters show they've got the talent, they'll get their shot. Eddie Howe himself made that clear. Every young player who gets the chance to train with the senior team has to grab it with both hands. The door is open, but it's up to them to prove they deserve that black and white shirt. And it's not just Howe. Steve Harper, the academy director, summed it up perfectly. He said being able to compete with massive clubs for players like Kenshington shows just how much Newcastle value youth development now. It's a total mindset shift. Harper went on to explain that, thanks to the hard work of everyone involved and the full backing of the club's ownership, Newcastle can now offer a first-class program for young players. We're talking top-tier facilities, professional coaches, nutritionists, psychologists, everything a kid needs to turn promise into greatness. And Harper's final message was spot on. The opportunity is there. Now it's up to the boys to take it. This move for Josh Kenshington isn't just about signing a talented 15-year-old. It's about vision. It's about building a Newcastle that lasts, not just for the next couple of seasons, but for decades. While others are busy spending, Newcastle are planning. They are building a future, piece by piece, and this, right here, is the kind of move that proves it. So, while we're dealing with injuries and short-term challenges, remember this, the club is planting the seeds for an incredible future. Snatching a top young talent from the hands of United and Spurs. That's not luck, that's strategy. If you enjoyed this update, hit that like button, subscribe to Newcastle Mania, and ring the bell so you never miss a video. And tell me down in the comments, do you think Newcastle's focus on young talent will pay off long-term? Thanks for watching, and as always, hoey the lads. Because here on Newcastle Mania, it's football made by the fans, for the fans. And trust me, tomorrow, there'll be more. Because the Newcastle news never stops.